If you follow the Premier League, or if you follow Liverpool, you'll probably have heard that Liverpool are now leading the Premier League table by 8 points. 8 points ahead of second place Manchester City, and then a further point ahead of Chelsea, Arsenal, and Brighton. Those three teams both on 22 points each. And Liverpool right now, in the opinions of many people, are favourites for this season's Premier League title. Probably even more so than they already were prior to the start of the weekend. But before talking about Liverpool's match against Southampton, I think something that has to be mentioned is the context of the weekend as it unfolded prior to the match. Mainly, what happened in the match between Man City and Tottenham. Now, yes, Man City have had a number of injuries to key players, and especially what is believed to be a season-ending injury for Rodri, their best defensive midfield, the best defensive midfielder in the world, and the recent Ballon d'Or winner. So yes, they've had a number of key injuries. Yes, they've lost 4 matches in a row in all competitions prior to the weekend. Yes, they haven't been playing well, and yes, they are playing against Tottenham, a team that has been Man City's bogey team for the past few years. But despite all of that, Man City, were still expected to be favourites at home against Tottenham, and they were still expected to do well, especially when you consider both teams' styles of play, and Tottenham's reputation, for playing open football. They've been known for the past year for the very high defensive line that they play, and the expectation would have been that Man City would be able to exploit this, score a bunch of goals, and win the match quite handily. So probably not that many people would have expected Man City to lose this match at home against Tottenham, and probably even fewer people would have expected them to lose in the manner that they did, and by the margin that they did, to get hammered 4-0 at home. It's a big crushing defeat, and with everything else surrounding the club, just it sort of amplified the sort of like a downbeat, downcast mood, because you're losing 4-0 at home, and now this is 5 losses in a row in all competitions, a third Premier League loss in a row. And what this result meant was that Liverpool now had this chance to open up an 8-point gap at the top of the table. It was 5 points going into the weekend, and now it could be 8. If Liverpool would win this match, and then of course there is the fact that next weekend it's Liverpool at home against Man City, and if Liverpool were to win that, it could become an 11-point gap. So there's a lot of this. Before and after that added to the narrative of what could happen, and the permutations and stuff like that. And what does this mean for the title race? Are Man City out of it? Are they still in it? If they are still in it, what chance do they have? What percentage chance do they have? Etc. etc. But of course, as far as Liverpool were concerned, okay, they do have the chance to open up that 8-point gap, provided that they beat Southampton first. But yet at the same time, probably in the eyes of many people, why going into the match, it felt almost as if this was going to be a sure thing for Liverpool. It's the fact that Liverpool are top of the table and Southampton are bottom of the table. First versus 20th, probably very, very, very few people would have fancied Southampton to get anything from this match. And yet, to a certain degree, Southampton managed to defy expectations in this match because they really made Liverpool work for it. This was not, this was not the kind of steamrolling that some people would have expected it to be. Southampton put up, quite a fight, and they scored 2 goals as well. And there was a period of time in the second half where Southampton were leading the match to 2-1. When I think about it again, especially now that it's been a whole day since the match itself, maybe partially, it's surprising that Liverpool was somehow struggling against, the bottom team in the Premier League, albeit this match was at Southampton, not at Anfield. At the same time, and think about it again, this is Liverpool's first match back after the international break. And on previous occasions, after previous international breaks, Liverpool have tended to struggle in their first match back. Tended to not play that well and having to scrape a result. And when I think about it from that perspective, it kind of continues that same trend. Back from international break and struggling, to get the desired result in this match, even if it is against the bottom team in the Premier League. As for the match itself, I feel like all 5 goals came from really, really silly, egregious mistakes. So the first goal that Liverpool scored for the 1-0, and there's an attack that built up, but eventually I think the goalkeeper made a rather comfortable save or whatever. And okay, as I was watching this on TV, right, they showed the replay of that attack build up, showing the replay, and then suddenly they cut away from the replay before it was finished, just in time to see Liverpool's players celebrating a goal. So now they had to quickly show the next replay of how that even happened. And as it transpired, okay, they basically resumed the replay from where it had cut off previously, which goes to show how fast that goal was scored immediately after that initial failed attack. Although the fact that the replay was even cut off midway in the first place had been indicated already. So the goalkeeper, he gets the ball, and in a situation where Southampton have maybe about 4 or 5 players in their own box, and Liverpool still also have about 4 or 5 players in the Southampton box, the goalkeeper rolls the ball to a player who is standing in the box while being surrounded by 5 Liverpool players. He immediately gets hounded and pressured, loses the ball. Another defender tries to clear it, but it doesn't get very far. Liverpool win the ball back, and Szoboszlai, just places the ball into the corner with his left foot, and just like that, there's 1-0 to Liverpool. And the sequence of mistakes and just the, I do not know, what would be the most appropriate adjective for this. The fact that, I don't know what to call it, bravery, brashness, brazenness, maybe even stupidity, because Southampton have been noted for trying to play the ball out from the back all season. And it's been noted that they have already made several mistakes, over the past matches, leading to them conceding a goal. Mistakes that already led to them conceding a goal. And this was also classified as another one. So for them to keep doing that same thing, despite all the mistakes, despite all the goals they conceded because of these mistakes, and then to try and do it against Liverpool, one of the best pressing teams in the league. Even the commentators, on the channel that I was watching, they as neutral as they need to be, couldn't help but point out, and criticize Southampton for the fact that they kept trying this again and again and again, and figuratively shooting themselves in the foot again and again and again. Even after this 1-0 goal, there were other situations where they tried to play the ball from the back, goalkeeper to defender, etc., etc., and they misplayed the pass or misplaced the pass, and the ball went straight to Liverpool attacker, although the chance was wasted. And I distinctly remember the commentator saying, they haven't learned anything. It takes a certain kind of bad for commentators to openly criticize a team's approach like that. This kind of thing rarely happens. So it is noteworthy that it has happened. That said, mistakes were not exclusive to Southampton, because after finally capitalizing on a Southampton mistake and scoring their first goal, Liverpool then proceed to make a few of their own. Van Dijk, amazingly consistent, one of Liverpool's best players, and has been over the past 6.5 years that he's been at the club. He, quite strangely, he loses the ball in his own half, and this immediately opens up, the space for the Southampton players to take the ball and just make a direct dash straight to the final, to the two defenders left at the back. He draws the foul from Robertson, gets the penalty, and just like that, you get the penalty. Okay, penalty saved, rebound, but it's a 1-1. So, in much the same way that Liverpool got the 1-0 out of nothing, Southampton then got the 1-1 out of nothing as well. Then on to the second half. Second half, Liverpool had the corner, and Southampton clear it. And okay, interestingly, it is Southampton doing to Liverpool what Liverpool have done to many other teams over the past several years, launching a very fast, lightning fast counter-attack from back to front within seconds and scoring the goal. When I looked at the replay, of how all of this happened, I noticed Bradley. So Bradley was the last player back. He was on his own in the middle of the field. The ball was played out to Southampton's right wing, so that's Liverpool's left side. Southampton have one of the attackers, chasing for the ball, and he's favourite to get there. He's the one nearest to it, and I believe it is Szoboszlai who is tracking back in that same direction with him. So it's both the Southampton attacker and Szoboszlai, running towards that Southampton right wing. And very, very strangely, for whatever reason, Bradley felt compelled to run all the way to the left into a situation that he had no hope of reaching on time, much less affecting in any meaningful way. By doing so, he abandoned the middle of the field and gave the Southampton attackers all the free space, all the free real estate to just run unimpeded for any through ball that would come in from Southampton's right wing. And that's exactly what happened. So the ball comes in from the right. Okay. And now Bradley, who had gone from the center to the left, is now chasing back towards the center. And I believe, Konate is also chasing back. There's another player chasing back. So the Southampton player who received the ball in the middle from the initial pass from the right, he gets the ball. There are 3 Liverpool defenders all bearing down on him at the same time. But despite that, he still manages to pass the ball, just lay off the ball to his right, to the next Southampton player, who is now also totally unmarked. Unmarked, one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and just a very calm, very nice finish beyond Callagher. So all of this, as when I watched the replay, what I see, was Bradley, and then subsequently more and more players chasing shadows, chasing situations that they had no hope of reaching. And if I look at Bradley in particular, in this particular situation, he went from the middle, chased all the way to the left, never got there on time. He then chased all the way back to the middle, never got there on time. And I think, I chalk this up to inexperience. And I think he'll learn from this. He has done very well, for the first team since his breakthrough. And I think and for me personally, I just chalk this up to inexperience, and yes, he'll learn from it. He'll do better next time, I believe. But regardless, as it were, now it's Southampton leading 2-1. And so as the minutes ticked on, there was a sense creeping in, the sense that somehow this was going to be a missed opportunity, especially in light of what happened at Man City. The chance to go 8 ahead. If this chance is missed, especially losing against a bottom of the table team, an opponent that you're widely expected to defeat, and quite comfortably so. So it would have been a real gut punch. But then, time for more mistakes. Gravenberch has the ball. He plays, a lofted pass over the top of the Southampton back line, on for Salah to run on through, right? So it was very close. There was a question of whether Salah was offside or onside, but as it turns out, he was just onside. The centre back in the very middle was playing him on, but it was very fine margins, that one. But then the focus ended up being on the Southampton goalkeeper, who for whatever reason left the net, and tried to chase the ball down. But he chased the ball down and just completely missed the ball altogether anyway. He somehow managed to run beyond the ball. Salah got to the got to that lifted through ball, and it was just a first time toe poke into an empty net that the goalkeeper vacated. So chalk that up to another egregious, inexplicable, unexplainable mistake. This one by the goalkeeper. And then finally, late on in the match, when Liverpool needed a winner, Salah stepped up. But okay, first, he stepped up by way of playing the cross in that resulted in the Southampton player handling the ball. It hit his chest first, but it bounced off him. I think it bounced off his arm. But the clearest bit of handball there was the way he flicked his hand. he flicked his hand sort of like using his hand to hook the ball, a little bit like that, and that bit right there, that's the definite handball. And then, and so with the penalty given, high stakes, high pressure, very late in the match, not long to go. A chance to score the winner to take Liverpool 8 points clear at the top of the table. Up steps Mo Salah again. He's calm, he's cool, he's collected, he's clinical, and he hit that penalty high into the corner. The goalkeeper dived the right way. He went in the right direction. But the height of that kick, he was not reaching that. And so finally, Liverpool late on lead 3-2 in the match. And that was the last of the goals. Liverpool win 3-2, 8 points clear. So what began as a very optimistic weekend because of Saturday's results then became a nervous Sunday because of what was happening in the middle of the match. And finally came the relief, the joy of victory, and the joy of what all of these means for the league table, and going forward to the next weekend. Now, speaking of Salah is definitely a Liverpool great, definitely a Liverpool legend, and not just a Liverpool legend of the Premier League era. For me, I feel he is one of the all-time greats of Liverpool from any era. His consistency, the number of goals that he has scored. He's been in the club for what, 7.5 years now? It will be 8 at the end of this season. And the numbers that he has put up, he is still on track. He's still on track to average 30 goals per season every season. And that would amount to something like what, 240 goals by the end of the season if he keeps up this pace. Absolutely amazing player, one of Liverpool's best ever, and it's a privilege to be able to to watch someone this good, someone this consistent, always delivering, and for him to play such a big role that in the trophies that Liverpool have won in recent years. As much as a privilege as it is to to see a player this good play for the team, and never have a hankering, or kick up a fuss about wanting to move elsewhere, to join this other team or that other team, thing. So it's really a breath of fresh air, a privilege, especially in light of all the kinds of situations that happened to the team for about the 5 or 6 years prior to Salah joining. And then looking beyond just the Liverpool echelons of greats. Now, of course, a lot of people have compared Salah to Thierry Henry, and asking who is the better player, or who between these two is the best Premier League player. Of course, there are those who point to Salah, and there are those who point to Thierry Henry. And all of them have different reasons for doing so. The kind of factors that they cite. Of course, first of all, there's the trophies that both players have won. There are the individual stats that both of them have accumulated during their time at their respective clubs. Then there's also, each player's style of play, their skill set, the kind of things that they're able to do, the types of goals that they've scored, or any kind of special movements, special skills that either one has displayed in their time. Like, okay, so like taking the latter point first, right? There are those who say that Thierry Henry was more skillful on the ball, more elegant. He knew how to dribble past players, and that is true. When I look at the way Henry runs versus the way Salah runs, Henry, he has those long leg strides. He looks like he is, like gliding. He's gliding across the field. There's like a graceful gazelle, type of long-legged strides, by the bounds and stuff like that. While Salah, Salah's running style seems more intense, more ferocious. So on one hand, you have grace and elegance. On the other side, you have that kind of rampant ferocity. How do you compare the two? Then you look at the kind of goals that that both players have scored. Henry, famously, he had that goal against Man United, right? His back is the goal, and he's 22 yards out. The ball comes to his foot. He flicks it up, and with one swivel, smacks it on the volley. It arcs up and dips down into the far corner. The Man United goalkeeper at the time was Fabian Barthez. He had no chance of saving that. And that was one of Henry's most famous goals, probably very, very often replayed. That was the one he scored against Liverpool, where he had the ball. Liverpool were in decent shape, with their defense, the midfield. He skips past Hammond, he skips past Carragher. He somehow manages, I think he caused Carragher and Hammond to collide into each other. Dribbled past both of them, one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and he placed it into the far corner. There was the one he scored against Tottenham, right? It was a Tottenham set piece, might have been a throw-in or corner, I'm not too sure. But Arsenal launched a counter-attack, or more accurately, Henry launched a counter-attack. He gets the ball in his own box, there or thereabouts. And again, that graceful gazelle-like type of running style. He runs with the ball. He runs with the ball from his own box all the way to the Tottenham box. Then just jinks to the left, past one defender, then past another defender, and he curls it. Into the bottom corner, right? So some of these are the goals that stands out. When you think of Thierry Henry and his skill set. And of course, Salah. Okay, so there's the question: has Salah scored goals like that? Okay, the counter attack is one thing, right? It's just a case of different running styles. Like I said, one is more graceful, one is more ferocious. In terms of okay, like the flick and volley that Henry scored against Man United, I don't think Salah has done that. The jink and the shimmy, getting past Hammond and Carragher. Okay, Salah has not done something like that quite exactly, but he has had other types of dribbly, mazy goals. Two of which stand out, quite famously against Man City and against Watford, and especially the one against Man City. So he gets the ball, in a tight space, and he's got 2 or 3 players around him. All of them are sort of like snapping at his heels, trying to get the ball, whatever. So he dribbles one way, then he feints to shoot. He feints to shoot, he sells the dummy to the to the defenders, and they sort of like try and lunge in with a tackle, but they just get air. And then Salah, so he jinks to the left and then to the right, and eventually he finishes the move with the right footed shot into the far corner. And of course, there's also the laundry list of counter attacking goals that Salah has been a part of, or the kinds that he has scored. So point being, when comparing their individual skill sets, the individual playing styles, and their running styles, the movement, whether you prefer the elegance of one player or you prefer the ferocity of another player, this part is really entirely subjective. Then move on to the trophies that the players have won. Okay, so Thierry Henry, in his time at Arsenal, he won 2 Premier Leagues and he won 3 FA Cups. Then he also won a couple of Community Shields. Okay, so there was the Champions League runner-up and the UEFA Cup runner-up. Okay, so he has won a handful of trophies while at Arsenal. And as for Salah at Liverpool, Salah 1 Premier League, 1 FA Cup, 1 League Cup, 1 Community Shield, and 1 Champions League. And then 1 UEFA Super Cup and 1 Club World Cup. So if looking first, in terms of the major trophies, the biggest trophies. Okay, so it's 1 Premier League for Salah, 2 for Henry. Okay, then Salah also has that 1 Champions League, which Henry did not have with Arsenal. So if we're looking at the absolute biggest trophies, you can count it as 2 of each. Then in terms of the domestic trophies, Salah is 2 League Cups, not just 1. So Salah has 1 FA Cup, 2 League Cups, and Henry has 3 FA Cups. Given that the FA Cup is regarded as more prestigious than the League Cup, so in that case you can kind of swing towards Henry. Then Salah does also have the Community Shield, the Super Cup, and the Club World Cup. Now, granted, each of these individually, they're not considered all that big, but at the same time, trophies like the Super Cup and the Club World Cup, you would need to have won the Champions League first to even qualify for these competitions. So make of that what you will. But in terms of trophy haul, again, both are very, very similar, I would say, in my opinion. And then the stats for that both players have accumulated for their respective clubs. So in this case, Liverpool and Arsenal, right? So first with Henry. Henry was at Arsenal for 8 years, I believe, 1999 until 2007, and then he did have that short loan spell back at Arsenal a few years later. But for the purposes of the comparison, I'll just go with 8 years. So in 8 years, Henry scored 228 goals, and he accumulated 98 assists. So this particular stat is based on what Transfermarkt says, right? 228 and 98 in 8 years. Salah at this point, after 7.5 years in Liverpool, he has 223 goals and 99 assists. So again, the numbers are remarkably similar, very, very similar. Of course, it still remains to be seen, what kind of numbers Salah will eventually tally, by the end of this season, and hopefully he stays for another season or 2 at least. Now it's interesting to note, right? Okay, so I mentioned Henry was at Arsenal for 8 years. and he's always very consistently delivered for most of it, with the exception being that eighth season, which was his lowest you know, goal scoring tally. Where other seasons he's had 20 plus goals, 30 plus goals. His best season he had 39, right? His final full season at Arsenal he scored 12. I believe that was the year when he had some some injury issues. And the stats here says he only played 17 Premier League matches that season, where before that he had always managed at least 31 or more, 31, 32, 33, 35, 37, etc., etc. Right? His final full season just 17. So that of course plays a part. It is a factor in this unusually low goal tally. But despite that, to score 228 in 8 years, it is also remarkable consistency. And so Salah at this point, if he continues on his current pace, of 30 goals per season, and he can manage this for 8 seasons, he will have scored more goals for Liverpool in 8 years than Henry has for Arsenal in 8 years. But both are still, but both are remarkable levels of consistency over a prolonged period. And the thing that, in my opinion, would tip it in Salah's favor is if he stays at Liverpool for a 9th year or a 10th year, and he continues this level of consistency in terms of his output, his goals and assists output. Because currently, at the glance, Henry's been consistent for 8 years. Salah's been consistent for 8 years. So when I distill it down, to just a sentence like that, it sounds equal. So it's not like so there is the parity in stats, there is the parity in trophies, and then the respective play styles and skill sets. Again, it is subjective which you prefer. Whether you prefer the grace of one player, or whether you prefer the ferocity of another player. Which is why I say that increased longevity, a 9th year, a 10th year, with the accompanying requisite consistency, would tip this in Salah's favor. And when you look at him, the way he plays, the way he keeps himself so fit, you have to imagine that surely he should be able to continue this level of consistent output for the next 1, 2, maybe 3 years. Just an amazing player. Both Salah and Henry definitely among the Premier League greats. And of course, being a Liverpool fan myself, I'm gonna be biased and say that Salah is better. But I think the argument of Salah is better would be strengthened if he can get that new contract, stay on for another 2 or 3 years, and keep delivering, keep winning more trophies. And fingers crossed that A, Salah stays, and B, he can lead the team to more trophies.